Hi, this is Val Hoyle from Oregon's 4th Congressional District, and for this episode of Cooking with Val, I have my good friend, fellow freshman who represents Dallas, Texas, and is also my next-door neighbor in the Longworth building, Jasmine Crockett.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you for being here. And today we're going to talk about reproductive health access. I represent Oregon, and we were able to put in our Constitution and prioritize access to reproductive health care. And as someone who's had 2 children, who's lost a pregnancy, I cannot imagine what it's like to live in a state like yours where they have said reproductive health care should not be available. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? It was interesting just listening to you talk about that, right? Because here it is, we both serve in Congress, and in some measure you would think that we're equal, but we're not, because I am a Texas resident, and if I end up pregnant, if I end up with complications, there's a better chance of me losing my life simply because I live in Texas. It doesn't matter that I'm a member of Congress. None of that matters. Women in states like Texas and Florida and all of the southern states, we are second-class citizens according to the people that we elected to have our best interests, versus in a state like yours. Like, how is it that we live in the land of the free, yet it's only freedoms over people's bodies in certain states in the United States of America? It absolutely doesn't make sense, and it's heartbreaking.
And I think what we have heard, certainly for those of us in swing district races and some of our fellow Republicans say, well, you know, in Oregon, and I've heard Democrats say, well, we're fine because in our state it's legal, and Republicans have said we're going to leave it to the states. But the fact of the matter is, if you read Project 2025, and if you talk to and listen to what Republicans say, what their leadership says, they want blanket abortion ban. So it doesn't matter. What we have seen is Idaho has an incredibly draconian abortion law, 6-week ban after 6 weeks. And we have women coming from Idaho. We have women coming from Idaho while they're miscarrying. Women are miscarrying in hospitals. Women are dying. Again, I think that it is easy in a state that has Democrats in charge, where we don't have to worry about this, to think that it couldn't come our way.
Yeah, it's definitely the opposite of pro-life, for sure, to have so many women that are literally losing their lives, whether they're losing their lives because they literally are dying, or whether you're taking their lives away from them because their hopes and dreams are smashed because, say, they were raped. We had approximately 26,000 women in just the last year that were impregnated because of rape in the state of Texas. I don't know how many dreams have been killed because of that and because of these laws. You know, no one can get comfortable, because you talk about your state being run by Democrats. I got news for folks. Texas used to be run by Democrats too. We had one of the best women governors ever in Ann Richards, #1. And for people that don't know the history, her daughter ended up taking over Planned Parenthood. So yes, we had amazing leadership. Roe v. Wade is a case that came out of Dallas, Texas. So it was Texas that put us on the map and made sure that women had access to reproductive rights. But then again, it was also, Texas was one of the states that was leading the way to roll back our access. So none of us should get comfortable. And as you mentioned, Project 2025, this is about a nationwide ban. This is about a minority of a minority deciding that they are going to run and ruin our lives. And it should be something that's unacceptable to each and every one of us, whether you have a uterus or not, because it has implications for other freedoms. And ultimately, no one is telling someone that you have to believe in my access, but it's mine. It's just like anything else. You know, we had the FDA administrator in, and I decided to talk to him about Viagra. Listen, you know, everybody makes decisions about what drugs it is that they're going to use. And this is the only time that the government weighs in on someone's health care. It's the only time. When men want to do whatever they want to do as it relates to their sexual reproductive organs, nobody weighs in. But a woman who essentially, she may be trying to save her life or not. But at the end of the day, why is it okay for big government to be in that small room with that woman and her doctor and potentially her partner?
And I think the FDA is really important, because again, if we look at Project 2025, which is the roadmap that they have put out with the Heritage Foundation for the next Republican president, if you want to prevent abortion, the best way to do that is to prevent unintended pregnancies. But they also want to ban contraception, ban access to Plan B, ban access to health care, not have investment in daycare, not have investment in WIC.
Yeah.
I mean, they proposed, what was it, an 85% or 65% cut in
So
WIC?
right now we're dealing with, even just when we look at SNAP benefits, even though WIC is obviously addressing our women specifically, but even when we look at SNAP benefits, which people only get $6 a day, $6 a day to eat, in a time where everyone is complaining about inflation and complaining about the cost of food, $6 a day doesn't feed anybody. But right now, we can't get through our farm bill because they want to cut $30 billion in SNAP specifically. How does that help someone? And this is at a time in which we see the protests that are taking place across the college campuses. We know that there are so many people that are concerned about famine that is taking place in Gaza. And here in the United States, who's sending money everywhere, for whatever reason, we're saying, you know what? We're okay with not feeding people in this country. Like, make it make sense. But this is the kind of stuff that is happening, but it doesn't dominate the news cycle. It's not the sexy stuff, but this is the stuff that we're supposed to be doing, not the nonsense that we see Marjorie Taylor Greene doing to make sure that she can get clicks and donations. And so I just hope and wish that people really do their research and find out who it is that's voting for those dollars to come to your community, whether they're in the form of SNAP benefits, whether they're in the form of infrastructure dollars, whether they're in the form of making sure that we're righting wrongs as it relates to environmental injustice issues. Look at who's looking out for you. I can't say that the Democratic Party is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that we have perfection on this earth, to be perfectly honest. But there is one party that is consistently fighting for equity for all people, whether you're a man, a woman, trans, lesbian, gay. We are fighting for everyone to have the ability to live a really true and free life versus the other folk that are trying to give immunity well, we're not going to go there. But nevertheless, the other folk that are absolutely trying to do the opposite and just bring more harm into our lives.
Well, and also not be honest about the fact that this is their agenda.
Yeah.
Copping out and saying, hey, we're going to leave it to the states.
Yeah.
Well, they will until they don't. Now, we were talking about food, and it is really important. I can tell you that my farmers, I mean, SNAP benefits they buy a lot of local food, whether it's our farm to school program or SNAP benefits. But you were going to share a recipe because that is something people do. Now, I will tell you, Jasmine, as I said, is my neighbor in Longworth, and I do like to bake. So I bake for my office and I bake for her office. And she is not a cook, but you do have a recipe.
I am not. Val is the cook, y'all. Y'all all need to come through and make sure you eat some of her good food. So I don't cook, but I can. All right, so I'm a Black girl, so I love to make sure that I've got collard greens, cabbage, all those kind of goodies. And so cabbage is my favorite. Mm-hmm. And so the recipe is actually a combination of frying and boiling the cabbage. So essentially what happens is I get some olive oil, I get some garlic, I make sure I've got all of my seasonings, my salts, my peppers, and I usually end up putting some kind of fat meat in there. Doesn't really matter what kind of fat meat. And so I fry it down. So, you know, when you get cabbage, it's pretty thick and dense. I fry it down, and once it's fried down, that's when I put in my chicken stock, and then I boil it, and it is amazing. All of your flavors are locked in from the frying process, and then you get your cabbage to be really tender in the boiling process.
That sounds amazing. My grandmother used to make cabbage, but she would just boil the heck out of it. So this is so much better. I'm going to try that, and we're going to share the recipe on the website. Thank you for your time, and thank you for pointing out why it is so very important that we watch what people do and don't believe what they're trying to sell us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Thank you.